I'm Eric Fried, and let's start with South Carolina. They have been the clear-cut #1 team in this conference and in the country throughout this season.
Absolutely, 29-0, but Eric, over the last 10 years, a 92% win percentage in the SEC. That is sustained excellence. That is sustained dominance.
You're just starting to talk about that sustained excellence and dominance, because let us count the ways where South Carolina has been that dominant team here in women's college basketball.
Well, you don't remain the only undefeated team in the nation without having stout defense, great rebounding, but the big catalyst for this team this year has been the offense. Three-point shooting. They have the nation's leading three-point shooter in Te-Hina. And Eric, the #1 constant throughout the success has been the leadership of head coach Dawn Staley.
The SEC Coach of the Year for a 7th time. And you can hear it's going to be loud in this building in support of South Carolina. So that means some pressure for Texas A&M, but they have a player who knows how to handle that pressure, leading them. Here's Brooke Weisbrod with more on Janiah Barker.
That's right, Janiah Barker's fire is what fuels this Aggies team, and managing throughout her injuries and emotions over the course of her career has required one special skill in coaching. Christy, you know this, patience. Talking to Joni Taylor, she said she gave Janiah a book and said it's great to have emotions, but not be emotional. That fire has come into play in this tournament. Barker had 15 points yesterday, but the key to Joni staying neutral, she said it's a feel. So watch for when Janiah Barker comes out of the game. Both she and assistant coach Chelsea Newton will read the situation, whether to address Janiah right away or just give her a beat and let her figure it out.
And she knows where the camera is. We saw that yesterday in the win against Mississippi State, where she went 15 points, 9 rebounds, 2 steals. She was 6 of 12 from the field. Interestingly enough, because of injury and earlier this season, concussion, this is the first time that she is facing South Carolina. So what should she expect here today?
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of focus on her from the South Carolina defense. She's got to stay patient. But Janiah Barker can contribute in so many ways. Her defense, her rebounding, and she spaces the floor for the Aggies.
Barker set to jump up against Cardoso. The opening tip controlled by South Carolina in the home white. And here we go in quarterfinal #1 in Greenville. Bree Hall defended by Aisha Coulibaly. Now Chloe Kitts. Kitts will try from the outside. And the first points of the game go to the sophomore for South Carolina. You can see Raven Johnson in the starting 5 for South Carolina, putting pressure on the starting point guard for Texas A&M. That's KK Green. Aisha Coulibaly went for 17 against Mississippi State. Lauren Ware, the leading rebounder for this team, who will be put to the test here against one of the best rebounding teams in the country. Barker, that's her spot, and an early basket for the sophomore from Marietta. Carolina starting 5. Pow, second team all-conference selection. Johnson, second team all-conference selection. Bree Hall's been an outstanding shooter. Kitts back in the starting 5, and Cardoso, the SEC Defensive Player of the Year, and a first-team all-conference selection. And Cardoso is fouled, or it's a jump ball. Jump ball or travel. Turnover here either way for South Carolina. Possession goes to A&M. Christy, break it down. Styles in this matchup here today. What has to happen for Texas A&M to pull off that upset?
Well, first of all, both these teams defensive-minded. Both these teams are tops in the nation in rebounding. So it's going to be the other pieces, meaning you've already seen both offenses have trouble getting into it because of the denial defense. How can they get in the offense? How deep will they go into their offenses? First, second, third options have to be available.
Barker shoots over Cardoso off the mark, and South Carolina loves to push the tempo. They get down the floor quickly with Johnson. In the words of Dawn Staley, she is all gas, no brakes. And here is Raven on the drive for 2.
And out of transition, you saw the mismatch where Ware had to pick up Raven Johnson. Great job of Johnson to get by the bigger post player.
Johnson averaging 8 points a game and a team best 5 assists a game. Here's Coulibaly to the basket, won't drop. She won't stop, though. That's what we know about Aisha Coulibaly, the senior from Mali who played at Auburn the previous 3 seasons, and she's had an impact season for Texas A&M in her first year in Aggie land.
And Joni Taylor uses her based on the matchup against her. If a team goes with a smaller guard, she'll post her up a lot. If they go with a 4-player, she'll use the bounce to get her downhill.
Fulwiley leans inside. Cardoso with the block. 7 to shoot for the Aggies. Cardoso, 68th block of the season, leading the conference in blocks per game.
Well, we're not even 2 minutes in, and there's the first block of the game for the nation-leading shot-blocking team in South Carolina.
8.5 blocks per game on average for the Gamecocks.
Eric, this is an Aggie team that wants to be physical, but there's physical and there's South Carolina physical. The strength of them, and we're already seeing that in terms of it affecting the Aggies, the half-court offense.
Down to 6 on the shot clock for the Aggies. Green to Ware, batted away by Cardoso. Chance here for Barker with the shot clock winding down, and Kitts has the rebound. Chloe Kitts putting it on the floor. Chloe Kitts goes coast to coast but can't finish.
And I asked the A&M staff about pace. They're like, we want to run. We have to be cognizant of the runs by South Carolina, though.
Not too many teams will win a track meet with South Carolina. Thus far, no teams have figured out a way to beat South Carolina, because they can beat you with the speed and they can beat you inside. Cardoso leading the team at 14 points a game, her first 2. Fulwiley. Fulwiley on the drive, Cardoso there, and she gets called for the foul. So the big question for Texas A&M is, when will India Rogers enter the game? She was a difference maker yesterday. If you weren't with us yesterday, the starting point guard, leading scorer for Texas A&M, missed the previous 6 games, last 6 games of the regular season after a knee injury, returned yesterday, looked good, played well, 12 points in 16 minutes. Waiting for her to come off the bench here today.
I thought she was the dynamite in terms of emotion, execution. I mean, she ignited everything for the Aggies yesterday. And Joni Taylor said she feels good today. And she said, I'm going to push the minutes a little bit today.
So it was 16 yesterday. We'll see if it's a little bit more. Speaking of someone who's a difference maker when entering the game, onto the floor comes Ashlyn Watkins for the first time. Watkins, the sophomore from Columbia, averaging 10 points a game and 7 rebounds. If you have not been following the South Carolina team this year, there's Fulwiley with the steal, throwing it up. That is Jones on the run with the finish. Well done by Texas A&M. South Carolina, incredibly deep team. They keep coming at you in waves off the bench.
And Eric, it's not the numbers as far as players. It is the 33 points a game that the bench is contributing to this high-scoring offense.
Here's Pow. Bounced it into Watkins. Tough spot for Watkins. Couldn't get it. Johnson on the glass with a second chance here for South Carolina.
And Joni Taylor said, we've got to stay close in the reboundings. Try to stay within 10. So that offensive board by South Carolina won't make the Aggie head coach happy.
Pow for 3. #1 in the country at better than 48%. She knocks it down to put Carolina up 3, 4 minutes in.
And Eric, you mentioned Ashlyn Watkins coming into the game. I truly believe the South Carolina defense gets ramped up a notch when she comes in, because now they switch every screen. She's quicker around the perimeter, better ball pressure.
Fulwiley with the travel, turnover for Texas A&M, and Rogers coming onto the floor. So what is the difference when she's on the floor for Texas A&M, Christy?
It's a true point guard running your team. It's the emotional stability that she provides. It's the maturity. It's the experience. And we saw that in spades yesterday. She looked good physically, but I thought her team looked even better around her because they were stabilized. Everyone resumed, as Joni Taylor said, their seat at the table.
Yeah, everybody had their proper seat at the table, is what Joni Taylor said before the game today. Fulwiley a little slow to get up, but she looks to be okay as she's walking back into the front court as South Carolina will bring it up. So far for Texas A&M, they have showed up at the opening tip. In the regular season meeting, they did not. They were outscored 15-0 at the start of that game at Reed Arena, but it's been a different attitude, mindset, and approach for Texas A&M here today. And Barker drives, can't finish.
And that's a great take by Janiah Barker. Obviously, when you get the shots at the rim, you've got to be able to convert against the South Carolina defense.
Hall tried to get it to Kitts. It's turned over and into the hands of Rogers. You see right away, Raven Johnson is going to make India Rogers work here today. Rogers, excellent shooter, not this time. Pow on the push. Bree Hall, excellent shooter. She hits the three. Really came on in conference play, hitting 47% from outside the arc. And Carolina up 6.
And Eric, as we just saw with that missed three, shot selection continues to be really important when you play the Gamecocks, because those long rebounds allow them to get out in transition.
Fulwiley, no. And a rebound to Johnson. There's Ashlyn Watkins trying to save it as she ran out of the play. And she takes out a chair and may have taken out somebody else too back there.
A&M obviously has numbers.
Rogers, Watkins sprinting back, but Barker got the shot off in time for 3.
And as soon as that ball went through the net, Joni Taylor imploring her team to sprint back and get solid on the defense. Very little stoppage in this first quarter. Up and down play, and you've got players.
Hustle play by Barker to beat Watkins to the ball, but Watkins doesn't quit. Johnson. And a pass too hot for Pow. A turnover. It'll be Texas A&M ball when we come back. An all-new starting 5 for South Carolina, but it's the same old Gamecocks. A look at the reload for Dawn Staley coming up next.
And this is the pressure South Carolina puts on you. Missed three-pointer. Gamecocks are out and running. Up 3. 3 to go in the first.
Unbreakable, unstoppable, South Carolina.
We went from basically 4 years of just business-like mentality. And then you come in and you got a new wave of players who, that mentality was not like that.
Coming into the season, there was a lot of doubters. I didn't like when they was calling us young, like we're not ready. You know, just wait till the moment happens.
That is domination for South Carolina. Nobody has beaten South Carolina this year.
I will say they've won me over.
We want to win the game. Everybody plays because we got love for the game, we got love for each other, we got love for our coaches. So we're going to do whatever it takes to finish the business.
You know, it's been a great year, but that doesn't mean it's been perfect. And this was Dawn Staley just a moment ago in the huddle. 7 turnovers in the first quarter will have that effect even on a Hall of Famer like Dawn Staley.
Well, let's not forget one of the best point guards of all time. And so she wants her team to play clean. She wants them to respect the game and not happy with the start.
And Dawn Staley, what she said right there, Christy, was meet the moment. Does not like the way that her team has started this game. She feels like they've been slow. They've been holding on to the basketball. She said, look, push the ball ahead. Do not drive to pass. Drive to score. So let's meet the moment, play your role. Let's get into this game.
And Brooke, to your point, every time we have spoken with Dawn Staley this year, this is not a finished product. And that is scary for opponents out there when we talk about the Gamecocks. But she keeps pushing them. Her attention to detail with each player has been remarkable, and she knows what they're capable of. And the start to that first quarter is nowhere near her expectations.
Handful of substitutions for each team, including Mylasia Fulwiley into the game, the talented freshman guard for South Carolina. Tessa Johnson has come into the game. Sanaya Fagan has come into the game. Sydney Bowles is in for Texas A&M. She misses that jumper. Pow with the push to Fulwiley. Loses her footing on her first touch of the postseason. Pow to Fagan. Fagan, good pass to Watkins. Just couldn't get it to go. Follow-up no good. Johnson all along on the weak side for her first 2.
Second chance opportunities. A&M has to be better in that area of boxing and keeping South Carolina off the glass. Already 5 second chance points for the Gamecocks.
Well, Wiley has really improved her defense, making it tough for Rogers. Bowles is a shooter. Ware trying to work on Fagan. Got Fagan in the air, but no contact. Yes, contact. A foul called on Sanaya Fagan.
And I really like how deliberate Lauren Ware was. She got the catch. She also just asked for a sub after this free throw, but she was deliberate in taking it up, and that was one thing A&M talked about. Don't get rushed. Don't do things out of character. Be you. Stay in the moment, to borrow Dawn Staley's
I
tag.
do not blame Lauren Ware one bit for needing to manage breaks here and there because of what she has to deal with today inside for South Carolina.
At least 3 different post players can play that 5 position for them. Honestly, it's 4. And they're all as big as Lauren Ware, if not bigger. And you see, especially without Ashlyn Watkins, it's a different kind of defense that you have to play because she's so explosive. She's so quick off the floor. She can drive by you. It's a lot for any one player to handle.
Joni Taylor, 19 wins for this team in her 2nd season at Texas A&M. They had 9 wins a season ago. 2 of those 9 wins came in this tournament. Shania Barker on for Ware. Pow rejected by Barker, who sprints after it and ends up in the 2nd row of press row.
What's our Aggie guy over there for if he's just going to let Janai keep going?
Yeah, you know what? You got to take the charge there.
Exactly.
You look like you can handle it, sir.
Some defense for the Aggies on the baseline out of bounds.
Pow. In and out for 3. Bose hands it off to Rogers. Rogers hounded by Fulwiley. Today at Hilton into the game. Bowles will launch a 3. That's big for Texas A&M if they can get Sydney Bowles heated up from outside.
Because it's never just 1 with Sydney Bowles. It's usually 2 or 3 after the first make.
Another turnover for South Carolina. That is 8 here in the first quarter.
And what I've seen, post players have been open. It's just how they lead them. And Sydney Bowles, you can't give any space to. Tess Johnson just kind of flagging at her. That's like saying, do you dare me? Because I'm going to knock it down.
How much of this for South Carolina, a team that's 29-0, 16-0 in the SEC, is first time on this floor? They haven't played since last Sunday when they took on Tennessee in a very tough game. Kicking off some of that rust.
Absolutely, and I asked Joni Taylor about that. So what was your message to your team, knowing you started slow in the original matchup in January against the Gamecocks, and knowing that South Carolina is going to have their first action on this floor, and that the first quarters have been a struggle for South Carolina, and I use air quotes on the struggle part.
There's a lot of questions lined up right there
yes.
for Joni, yes.
And Joni said, I told them South Carolina is always so good because they believe they should be here. My players have to believe they can be here. And I think so far the Aggies have responded to that message from their head coach.
Rogers got a wide open look, couldn't knock it down for 3. Here's Fulwiley on the drive, won't drop, but she was fouled. I don't like to play favorites, but the young woman you're looking at right there, got a little bit of a crush on Malaysia Fulwiley, I can't lie. The freshman from Columbia has just been filling up the highlight reel from her very first game of the season, as we saw that 17 points in the collegiate debut against Notre Dame in Paris. And that beautiful take to the basket. She's added to that highlight reel. I think the one thing, too, that Dawn Staley loves is how Fulwiley, the competitor, is committed to being better defensively, being a better all-around player, and Staley wants her to shoot more, wants her to be more aggressive.
Well, Eric, in all my years of coaching, I never had a freshman who didn't hit the wall, mentally, physically, and then pop out of it. And you're seeing, and that's one of my favorite parts of Malaysia's game. It's her shoe game with Under Armour.
You've never had a freshman who's had a different pair of shoes in every game.
That too.
Did you, in your freshman year at Tulane, make 1 pair of shoes last the entire season? Or your entire college career?
Yeah, it was a different era. But let me finish with Malaysia here. Malaysia, I asked Dawn about hitting the wall. She said no, she's taken her foot off the pedal a couple of times, but she's never hitting the wall. And that's an aspect of what makes Malaysia Fulwiley so special. She takes the coaching, she applies it, and she has just gotten better and better throughout the season.
Pretty drive there, just wouldn't drop. And a foul is called. Fulwiley a little too aggressive on the sticky defense.
That's
she gets whistled for the foul, yes.
So far, Joni Taylor playing 3 different players at the point guard position. I think that's important because we know the on-ball pressure that Fulwiley will provide, as well as Raven Johnson.
And Chloe Kitts gets called for the foul. That's going to be her second.
And that's 2 off-ball fouls called against Chloe Kitts. She had the one earlier against Shania Barker on the post-up.
So Dawn Staley will go to Sakima Walker early in this game. She's averaging just 8 minutes a game, but with Kitts in early foul trouble, in comes Walker. That means all 10 players who are dressed for South Carolina have appeared here in the first quarter. That won't drop, and a rebound to Fagan. Final minute, first quarter. Pow lost the handle. Bulls with it. Another South Carolina turnover. Make it 9 here in the first quarter.
And if you're going to upset the #1 team in the country, you got to have a little bit of that. But more importantly for A&M, they've got to be able to score off of those South Carolina miscues.
And that's going to be a turnover for South Carolina. It's a little hard to see the half-court line, and Joni Taylor was jumping up to half-court to just kind of take a look at it with our lead official, Gina Cross. There was a backcourt violation. Final seconds here for Pow and the Gamecocks.
As well as A&M's play, this is important defense. If they can get a stand here, they have won the first quarter despite the scoreboard.
7 seconds for Fulwiley. Down to 5. Spinning and traveling. Double-digit turnovers for South Carolina. They average 13 turnovers a game. They have 10 so far.
And you're seeing a little bit of frustration from South Carolina right now. Important right now for them to maintain their composure. They've been challenged this season, and this is just another challenge on their stretch run.
Rogers with a launch from 3/4 court off the mark. Joni Taylor's got to be happy even though her team's down. They don't look timid. Feels different for Texas A&M hanging in there. We'll hear from Joni Taylor. She'll talk to Brooke Weisbrod when we come back. Shania Barker came out ready to play, as did her Aggies teammates. You have to be ready from the opening tip when you take on #1 South Carolina. First quarter in the books. South Carolina turned it over 10 times in that first quarter, but Texas A&M really didn't make them pay fully for those turnovers. Just 5 points off those 10 turnovers. Joni Taylor, the Texas A&M head coach, talked to Brooke just a moment ago.
Coach Taylor, you said you wanted a good start. Yeah. How do you get the best team in the country to 10 turnovers in the first quarter?
Well, I think one of our things was to be aggressive. South Carolina is obviously a really good team, and if you let them pass and catch, they're incredible. We've got to dictate. We did that at times. We've got to continue to do it.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
And the turnovers have been because this A&M team has been locked in defensively. Off the on-ball screen, Te-Hina just loses control of the ball. And immediately you see A&M get on the floor. The reverse spin move, just trying to do too much because the on-ball defense has been solid by the Aggies. And then active hands by Aisha Coulibaly, which allowed the Aggies to get out and run in transition.
Much different than the regular season meeting on January the 21st in College Station. South Carolina won 99-64. They scored the first 15 points of the game. They shot 67% from the field in that game. So that A&M defense has been much better here so far, holding South Carolina to 43%. But A&M's got to be better than 29% if they're going to pull the upset. That's what they shot in the first quarter. Hilton to Ware. KK Green. Raven Johnson back on the floor for South Carolina.
Barker needs the ball right now with Cardozo trying to defend her off the three-point line.
Barker's calling for it, but Coulibaly's trying to do something one-on-one, and she did something one-on-one.
I said it yesterday, and I'm going to say it again. Aisha Coulibaly is a matchup issue for most teams because of her physical strength and her explosiveness.
Johnson to Cardozo, who lost the handle. Second quarter starts where the first quarter left off for South Carolina.
And it ends for the Aggies the same way. Good team defense in the half court.
Barker brings Cardoso out, launches the three, but does not get the roll. And Barker is down, saying, I got down here because I was pushed down.
Well, Eric, this is the team defense. The screen, you saw Hilton stay in the paint, but the lob is there, not quite on target. The weak side defender comes. Cardoso can't bring it in because she's so crowded down in the paint right now.
Last touch by Carolina, so A&M basketball. Here's Ware. Open from the top of the key. Lauren Ware with her first field goal, and Texas A&M's on top in the second. Johnson into traffic. She was fouled.
Texas A&M wants to get Camila Cardoso in screen on the ball's actions because she's going to try to stay in the paint. That time, Ware popped. She had plenty of space, plenty of time, knocked down the jumper.
Foul on Barker, her first personal. Just the second team foul of the game for Texas A&M, and Tessa Johnson at the free throw line. 80% free throw shooter, junior. The freshman rather, from Albertville, Maryland. Averaging better than 5 points a game, Christy.
Sorry, Eric, I was going to say I was impressed with the drive because half of Tessa Johnson's shots on the year come from three-point line.
25 made threes for Johnson. Comes up with a couple at the free throw line. And a traveling violation called on Fulwiley. Turnover number 5 for the Aggies.
I think it's going to be really important for Ware to keep moving without the ball because you're seeing already the bigs for South Carolina are staying in the paint, rim protecting. She's going to get that outside shot if she can make herself available.
Johnson hangs in the air, and she's fouled again. So Tessa Johnson looking to get a little bit more aggressive, getting in close and getting a foul called on the Aggies. Soleil Williams, the freshman, will come in for A&M, with Hilton going to the bench after picking up the personal.
Well as the team defense has been, you're going to put a lot of pressure on the other 4 players on the floor if you can't one-on-one contain, and that's what we've seen the last 2 trips out. Tessa Johnson beating her player off the bounce.
It's been a good shooting year, a great shooting year really for South Carolina. They haven't been great from the free throw line, 68%. They haven't needed to be great from the free throw line, frankly, because field goal shooting, elite. 3-point shooting, which has been much documented this year, a weakness last year, cost them in the national semifinal. It has been a major strength this year for Carolina.
Well, and the other reason they haven't needed the free throw shooting, they're averaging a win margin of 32 points a game.
Fulwiley called for the travel. South Carolina turning up the defense now, up by 3. Last year, you think about it, they were 31% on threes. They made just over 4 a game, and they were 4 for 20 in that national semifinal loss against Iowa.
Last year, they were 353rd in the nation. There's only 361 to be.
I didn't know there was that many teams.
And so remarkable improvement. And I think it started with Te-Hina Pow, but it has been remarkable, the improvement of Raven Johnson and Bree Hall as well.
Major improvement for South Carolina over the last couple of minutes. They've stretched it back out to a 5-point advantage. 6-0 run for Carolina. Crowd makes a little bit more noise here. Partisan crowd in Greenville, South Carolina.
Trying to get Soleil Williams a 3-point shot, running off that weak side down screen.
Sahara Jones tries to work on Hall. Back out to Williams. Jones with 6 on the shot clock, and Barker had slipped down a bit trying to post up just as the pass was coming in. Turnover again for Texas A&M.
7 turnovers now for A&M, and immediately Joni Taylor looking at her team and saying, calm down, we're okay.
Johnson from outside, no. Cardoso over everybody to get the rebound. Hall tried to dump down the extra pass to Fagan. Tie-up possession arrow will keep it with Carolina. Dawn Staley's team last played Tennessee, won by 8 to cap a second straight undefeated regular season. That was last Sunday.
So from the zone out of bounds, A&M will immediately go into the player-to-player.
Ware and Cardoso battling inside, and I think Ware's picking up her first personal.
A&M, great first quarter, but you have to be so mentally and physically sound to continue to stay that way for 40 minutes. And we're starting to see a little bit of slippage from the Aggies.
Fagan. Barker standing her ground. Fagan saved it. Cardoso out to Johnson. Hall. Good job by Texas A&M defensively. Soleil Williams, the freshman, with the steal. And the push. And the block by Johnson for South Carolina. How about that defensive play? Tessa Johnson, we've said her name a few times here in the second quarter.
Well, great transition defense. Tessa Johnson just gets back, gets squared, and times this perfectly to get the block. And the guard adds to the rim protection for South Carolina.
Williams checks out. India Rogers comes back on for Texas A&M. Fulwiley on for South Carolina.
Elevator action by the Aggies.
Rogers back out. Barker wide open three. No good. Ware tried to knock it off of Fulwiley. Here comes Fulwiley moving through traffic. Looking back for Johnson. Wide open three. Rogers, a deep three. Can't end the run, but Barker's got an offensive rebound. And that will end the run at 9 straight for South Carolina.
Really important answer there by Texas A&M, but even better response by South Carolina.
Camila Cardoso loves to run the floor. She's not someone who's going to lumber across half court, wait for everybody to catch up. She's ahead of the field most times.
And as much as Cardoso loves to run, Raven Johnson loves to find her rim running.
Rogers goes down. Ware from deep. Cardoso couldn't reach the rebound. Three-pointer is off the mark. Zara Jones tried to save it. That will get us to a timeout. South Carolina on top by 8. Camila Cardoso, the 6'7" senior from Brazil, showing that speed. With the finish. And South Carolina rolling here in the second. You see, they presented Joni Taylor with a little birthday cake, and they organized the team to sing happy birthday to the Texas A&M head coach. They never stop on that set, ever. They're always thinking.
It is must-watch TV.
What's been the difference here for South Carolina on this 11-2 run, Christy?
I think Tessa Johnson got them going by just breaking them down off the bounce. They've been good on the glass. They've done a better job of taking care of the ball. 10 first quarter turnovers, only 2 so far in the second.
Remember, A&M led 17-16 before this burst by South Carolina to put the Gamecocks on top by 8. Watkins for Cardoso. MJ Johnson there defensively.
Nice double team by Barker.
Can Johnson add to her total? Not this time. Batted into the hands of Barker. And here's Rogers. No scoring for Rogers yet. She's 0 for 3 from the field. All 3 field goal attempts, 3-pointers, and they've been pretty deep ones as well. Cardoso out near midcourt. And then she recovers to get the deflection. Pow tried to get it to Watkins, who tried to save it but threw it to Jones. Turnover number 13 for South Carolina. Jones ran out of room on the baseline. Fulwiley down the lane, too strong with the lefts. Cardoso's fouled by Barker. That will be her second personal.
It started with the dribble penetration by Fulwiley, which forced rotations, and that's why Cardoso was left untouched to get the O board. Barker sometimes just needs to concede those kind of things so that she can stay on the floor. It looks like Joni Tyler's going to keep her on the floor with those 2 fouls.
Yep. You keep her on the floor with 2 here with 3.5 minutes to go in the second quarter.
Here's where I'll say the growth I've seen in Janiah Barker in the last month. A month ago, I would have said, no, you got to get her out because she's an emotional player. This is the maturity that we've seen in this young lady.
Oh, you heard Brooke talk about it at the top of our show, using that emotion the right way. Rogers out of sync right now. Coulibaly sticks with it. Can't get it. And here's Fulwiley, one-on-one with Barker. Fulwiley, too strong.
Smart play by Barker to concede that. Missed layup. Now Aggies can get out and run.
Barker the other way with the 2 fouls and deflected by Johnson getting in the passing lane with Watkins. Fulwiley showing some frustration right now too. She's missed a couple that she normally makes. Kind of had her hand over her face there for a moment. Now let's see if she can turn the page.
Eric, only 2 blocks for South Carolina so far in this game. However, the rim protection, their shot blocking ability is affecting A&M. A&M only 2 of 9 on shots at the rim right now. We've seen them miss a couple layups and rush shots versus being able to convert and finish.
Fulwiley out of the game, Raven Johnson back in. Bowles back to Rogers, defended by Johnson. MJ Johnson inside, too strong. Tessa Johnson with the rebound. We need to get Raven Johnson involved for the hat trick. Instead, it's thrown away by South Carolina again.
And Eric, you see how South Carolina is defending the on-ball screen action of the Aggies. Camila Cardoso coming out with that hard hedge, but Aggies can't make them pay for that. They've got to move the ball quicker. I'd love to see them go back up high to the post player and then make the extra pass.
How much are these turnovers forced by Texas A&M or unforced errors by South Carolina right now?
I'm going to say probably about 50-50. Again, first game on this stage, and these are a lot of new players on the SEC tournament stage for South Carolina. So there's some transition there, but I do not want to discredit Texas A&M's defense by any means.
I'm not trying to. It just feels like South Carolina seems sped up here, and they're doing a few things that we haven't seen them do for the most part this season.
But I think they're sped up because of the defense.
Because of A&M. You saw Barker check out, so she goes to the bench with the 2 personal fouls. Watkins, that won't drop. Raven Johnson kept it alive, and here's Hilton. Back out to Rogers. Coulibaly from deep. 4-3, Aisha Coulibaly, just 16% from outside the 3-point line this season, but playing with a ton of confidence. Much needed 3 for A&M. Pow on the run. Off the mark, Watkins headsy play. Threw it off of Hilton. Carolina ball.
So this is the screen on the ball action by the Aggies that I was talking about. You see Ashlyn Watkins go with the ball handler. Coulibaly stays high. They hit her, and she hits the 3. Defense takes something away. You've got to be able to exploit what they're willing to give up. And for right now, for the A&M, that will be the outside shot by the bigs.
Cardoso to Fagan. And then Coulibaly was a half step away from taking it the other way. Knocks it out of bounds. He'll stay with Carolina. Cardoso. Fagan gets a little aggressive on the post up with Coulibaly and gets called for the foul.
One thing I'll say, if you like physical post play, this is the game. I have seen the bigs on both sides really battle and bang in the low post so far in this game.
Second personal foul on Fagan. So 2 on Fagan, 2 on Chloe Kitts. Some of that post depth being tested for South Carolina right now. Rogers for Ware. Ware back to Rogers. 7 on the shot clock. Rogers open 3. Still trying to find the range. Now 0 for 5 from the field. Raven Johnson off the window for 2. I said Dawn Staley said Raven Johnson is all gas, no brakes. That wasn't necessarily a compliment from Dawn, because sometimes Ravens should take her foot off the gas a little bit, but she got aggressive on that take and was rewarded for it. Fulwiley traveled. 10 turnovers for Texas A&M. That's a high number, but they are still +5 in turnover margin because Dawn Staley's team has turned it over 15 times.
One of the difference of why they still have the 9-point lead is they're +10 in the rebounding battle right now as well.
Final shot here for South Carolina. Cardoso for Fagan. Fagan with the finish. Final heave on the way, and that will do it for the first half. South Carolina, of course, perfect when leading at halftime this year, 25-0. A&M's come back from a halftime deficit just once to win this year. 11-point lead for Dawn Staley's team. She's with Brooke.
Coach, your team has the lead and 15 turnovers here in the first half. How would you like to see your team get settled quickly in the third?
I mean, just stop turning the ball over. I mean, fight aggression with aggression. We're being aggressive to the rim, and then we're being passive once we get there. So, go score. Go score the basketball. Don't look to pass the ball. We'll settle down, though.
How is Texas A&M's defense impacting the pace of your offense?
Part of it is Texas A&M, and part of it is us. We're making really, really bad decisions. We shot ourselves out of a cannon, so hopefully with this little bit of a break, we'll settle ourselves.
Thank you so much, Coach. All right, let's send it over to Alyssa Lang on the studio set.
Some of the images from the first half. Aisha Coulibaly trying to take it at Camila Cardoso, which hasn't always worked out well for opponents this year. Carolina 17-5 run to end the first half, and they have an 11-point lead. As we head to the third quarter, Eric and Christy back with you here courtside. 10 first quarter turnovers, 15 turnovers in the first half for South Carolina. Uncharacteristic of the Gamecocks, but more like South Carolina basketball as that quarter pressed on.
Well, if you mean a 17-5 run to end the quarter, absolutely. And I thought a lot of it was what Dawn Staley addressed. They were picking up the pace. They were pushing tempo in transition. Here, Tessa Johnson with a spot-up 3 that really ignited the offense for them in the second quarter. Then a post-to-post pass. So they have Fagan just getting explosive at the rim. And then when you talk about explosiveness, you got to mention Raven Johnson. But for A&M, they hung in the game, mainly because of their forwards. Janiah Barker with 7 first-half points, as well as Aisha Coulibaly off the pick and pop with her 3. These two young ladies averaged 24 points a game on the season, already with 14. And the Aggies are going to need a lot more from them.
Before I ask you about adjustments for the Aggies in the second half, here's one adjustment for the Aggies. India Rogers will start in the second half. She came off the bench to start the game, but she will be out there. You just get the sense this is going to be a critical couple minutes here, because you heard Dawn Staley talk to Brooke walking off the court. We shot ourselves out of a cannon at the start of the game. You would think that they were going to come out here and look for a little separation early, and especially Chloe Kitts, a player who was on the bench for most of the first half thanks to 2 fouls, coming out there trying to make a difference right away. That's Coulibaly who's down. And she's got her hand over her eyes. I don't know if there was a clash of heads. For the moment, just Joni Taylor is coming out. Stacy Keisel is the athletic trainer for Texas A&M. And she does have the hands up around the neck and the jawline. Let's see if we can see what happened here with Fulwiley. Yeah, there was just a bump from Kitts.
Looked like her shoulder got her.
So it wasn't falling back, hitting her head on the floor that we could see. It was just that initial contact with Kitts.
And I saw Gina Cross go over to Joni Taylor and said, "You want us to review it?" And Joni Taylor said no. And she had a good view of it.
Looks like Fulwiley will hopefully just have a little bit of a headache to deal with here for a moment, but she will go down to the end of the bench for further treatment. We'll keep an eye to see if she goes back to the locker room area for perhaps a concussion assessment. And she is walking back behind the bench. You can see top of the screen going down the hallway. And she's not going too far because she wants to keep an eye on the game here. Competitor.
Nice driving kick there. Not enough space, though, for the shot.
Barker with 5 on the shot clock. Got Cardoso turned around. Couldn't hit it. 27% from the field in the first half for Texas A&M. Kitts. She'll take it from outside and knock it down. Chloe Kitts taken out of the rhythm thanks to those 2 fouls in the first quarter, trying to find her rhythm here in the third.
Look at how far out KK Green is trying to initiate the offense because of the on-ball pressure of Raven Johnson.
Bree Hall will do more of the same on Rogers. Rogers 0 for 5 in the first half. Second half's a different story. Knocks it down for 3.
And Eric, I wonder if that's one of the adjustments by A&M. Coming off the initial on-ball screen, South Carolina was so good defending that in the first half. There you saw the rescreen.
Pow on the drive over Ware. No. Cardoso has it blocked. Ware rips it away. Sahara Jones with Bree Hall back.
Good decision by Jones to pull it out. Didn't have numbers there.
Green defended by Raven Johnson. Back out to Barker. Barker looking for Ware. Barker's jumper is off the mark, and Raven Johnson has the rebound.
Already South Carolina's defense being disruptive. Shot clock got skinny in every possession for the Aggies so far.
Kitts with the finish. Kitts averaging just under 10 points a game. This is a balanced South Carolina team. Cardoso leading the team in scoring at 14 points a game. Barker found Ware, and one.
The timing for that play by Texas A&M was spot on. Ware waited until KK Green got out of the way to set the on-ball. Then KK Green set the great diagonal back screen for her to get open, get the pass, get the finish, and get the celebration.
First foul on Johnson. Ware finishes the three-point play. Aisha Fulwiley has come back from the locker room area. She is sitting up with the coaching staff, which is always a good sign that she's...
Put me in, coach.
Yes, she's in put me in coach mode.
Yeah, guys, Fulwiley was in the hallway getting worked on by the training staff. They were just getting some, looking for movement around her jawline, just kind of checking to make sure she had some mobility around the neck. But yeah, didn't have to go back to the locker room, so always a good sign.
Okay, thank you very much, Brooke. Cardoso, chance for a three-point play.
Well, now the screen on the ball and the roll by the bigs is on display for both teams. Great lead pass by Bree Hall. Good hands, good finish by Camila Cardoso.
Add to it the third foul on Barker. Carolina is 9 for 9 from the free throw line today. Rogers trying to get away from Hall as Barker open at the top. Barker on the drive and the finish. Janiyah Barker, first points in the second half, 9 for the game. Kitts. See if they work it back to Kitts. Guarded by Barker, who's got the 3 fouls. Chloe Kitts was denied. Barker was close to her, and here's Rogers. Barker on the run and the finish. Here comes Texas A&M, led by Janiyah Barker. And thrown away, but a foul is called on Barker, holding Cardoso. That's her 4th.
And why it's unfortunate is because she's already got 4 quick points in this quarter. Getting aggressive, getting downhill, getting to the rim for the Aggies. She's read the defense. She has not committed any turnovers by going too far on the penetration. But unfortunately, gets called for the 4th, the very next trip down the floor.
See the good emotion there, and as she's coming out of the game, Joni Taylor stopping her. She's been in her ear for a few seconds now, trying to calm her down, trying to keep her locked in the game, even though she'll be watching from the bench for quite a while now, to the bench with 4 fouls. Watkins on the floor, inside for 2.
And we talk about Barker scoring, but she also gives length defensively. She gives rebounding, and that last possession by South Carolina was a great example of her not being on the floor and what South Carolina could do against them.
Jones is fouled by Cardoso. That'll be her 2nd personal.
And so, Eric, the very last out-of-bounds play, we talked about A&M runs the zone. Quick screen by Pow. No one there because the size isn't there. The communication wasn't there by the Aggies, and that was 2 easy points for South Carolina.
Aisha Coulibaly is back into the game here, grabbing at her neck a little bit as she steps around midcourt, stretching it out. So we'll see if she's at 100%. A less than 100% Aisha Coulibaly is still pretty good, and Texas A&M needs that right now with Barker on the bench with the 4 personals. Johnson for Cardoso inside.
There's not much Lauren Ware can do there because she bumped the cutter coming across, but it was such a great lead pass by Raven Johnson to Camila Cardoso.
Johnson trying to make Rogers work. MJ Johnson in the game. Her pass intended for Ware. A turnover. South Carolina ball.
And Eric's just another little rub back screen, and you saw Cardoso just clear Lauren Ware out of the way, and better pass by Raven Johnson to lead her to the weak side of the rim for the 2.
Point lead. That was the advantage at halftime for #1 South Carolina.
ISO for Watkins here.
Against Johnson. Too strong, too quick, too good. Now Fulwiley will defend Rogers. Ware spins over Watkins for 2.
A&M doing a much better job attacking off of the screen on the ball and hitting the post, whether it's up and in or just hitting the roller this half so far.
Ball takes the handoff from Watkins. Watkins finds Cardoso, who flips it up with the left and 1.
Eric, I was a guard, but I got to tell you, the most beautiful basketball is usually post-to-post action. The high post pass, and then the give and go. Watkins to Camila Cardoso, coming back for the and 1 after the break.
It's a next play mentality no matter what happens. Don't drop your head. Don't get too excited. Don't celebrate. Get back. When the ball is loose, pick it up. Don't try to bounce with the ball. Pick it up. Secure the ball. That's the most important thing. We got to
guys. Transition defense will do what? That's what's going to win the game for us. Our transition defense.
It's a sampling of what Joni Taylor's been telling her team throughout the course of the day, and now a little bit more urgency as we get into the third quarter. Our top player is on the bench with 4 fouls.
Yeah, and I love the last point, the transition defense. And this goes back to my earlier comment about why it's so difficult to beat South Carolina. For 40 minutes, you have to be mentally engaged, mentally sharp. There's no time for slippage because they will exploit that. And what you're seeing now is a little fatigue. And where does it show up most? In the transition game. We've seen South Carolina be able to get out and get some easy points in transition.
Janiyah Barker on the bench with the 4 personal fouls. She has 11 points and 2 rebounds in 20 minutes. Camila Cardoso trying to finish off a 3-point play. The foul on Ware was her second. Carolina keeps up their perfection at the free throw line. They are 10 for 10.
And Eric, so far in this third quarter, no turnovers for South Carolina.
Well, they got their quota in the first quarter. Hilton, that looks good. Just won't drop. Ware is fouled by Fulwiley. Carolina had 10 first quarter turnovers, 5 second quarter turnovers. And Dawn Staley talking to Brooke, as you heard when she walked off the court at the end of the half. She thought they would settle down in that category, and they certainly have.
Well, Dawn Staley spoke to Brooke, but I have a feeling she spoke to her team at halftime as well about the turnovers.
My feeling is she was probably a little bit more conversational with Brooke. Maybe a little calmer. Coulibaly will go to the line. That's going to be a foul on Cardoso.
With Barker on the bench now, it's time for Aisha Coulibaly to get some touches and get some points for the Aggies.
So that's 3 on Cardoso. Fagan will come into the game. Cardoso 14 points. As I mentioned, 8 coming here in the second half. To go along with 3 rebounds. Coulibaly with 7, all coming in the first half. Mentioned her day against Mississippi State, 17 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals. That's what she does. She stuffs the stat sheet. Bree Hall will check out, and here's Tessa Johnson, who played very well in the first half. She had 9 points off the bench for South Carolina. 7 of those 9 were during that 17-5 burst to close out the quarter. Johnson to Watkins for 2 more.
Great read by Watkins. She saw that her defender turned her back and just cut hard to the glass.
15 assists on 19 field goals for South Carolina. Coulibaly. Fouled by Watkins. To pause for a second because Coulibaly's arm got up a little bit, but it is a foul on Watkins.
Well, Raven Johnson just has her head up, makes the eye contact for Ashlyn Watkins because she sees her defender kind of step at her. That's a tough recovery for Lauren Ware. Ashlyn Watkins immediately cuts back door, gets fed, gets the finish.
First personal on Watkins. Saw the 19 assists per game. They had a 30-assist game on 35 field goals, by the way, against Kentucky. A&M making their free throws. Coulibaly into double figures. She has 11. Back to a 12-point game. Fagan travels. First turnover of the second half for South Carolina.
There's some South Carolina fans not agreeing with that call, but I thought she switched her pivot feet as she tried to hit the ball on the floor.
Dawn Staley has had many different looks and combinations on the floor throughout the course of the season. Right now it's Cardoso and Kitts on the bench. Fagan and Watkins in the post. On the floor, Coulibaly muscles it in for 2 more. Aisha looks just fine. 10-point game. Watkins, beauty on the turnaround. 8 points this half for Ashlyn Watkins.
And I thought Aisha Coulibaly played defensively that really well. Gave her the space. That's just how good Ashlyn Watkins is off the bounce.
Coulibaly given a little room to operate. Throws up another tough one. Aisha Coulibaly on a run of her own right now. She's got 15 points. She has scored the last 8 for Texas A&M. Fulwiley denied by Coulibaly, but Fagan there to clean it up.
The movement of the bigs for South Carolina without the ball has been really impressive here the latter part of this third quarter. They're active, they're moving, and they're exploiting the rotations of Texas A&M.
Coulibaly, heat check. Didn't miss by much. Johnson quickly back the other way. Fagan turns inside, knocked away. Hilton comes up short on the floater. Sydney Bowles tried to keep it alive. Missed opportunity right there for Texas A&M. Now Fulwiley to Fagan for 2. There's a whistle stopping play. See some protesting from Dawn Staley here. Joni Taylor has got an official. Dawn had an official. What we know is we have a media timeout here, so let's sort it out and we'll come back. Fulwiley, did Watkins grab the rim? No, I don't think she did. Let's see what they're looking at here, though. Back in a minute. All right, let's clean things up here. It's a 14-point lead for South Carolina. The officials having a conversation, but the score's going to hold. A timeout was called by South Carolina. Not something you see every day in the women's game, but when Ashlyn Watkins, who has dunked twice in game action, you got to keep an eye on the rim. This one dropped down, and Watkins had a hand on the rim, but no goaltending was called. That's what Joni Taylor was looking for. And Christy, you just went and had a conversation with Lisa Mattingly, the supervisor of officials. What did she have to say?
She said that as long as the ball is not on the cylinder, and Ashlyn would have touched it to disrupt that, it's not goaltending. I think our rules committee needs to start looking at adjusting the rules for Ashlyn Watkins.
The Watkins rule?
Yes. That was a new one for me. I had never seen that in the women's game. There's a lot of things that Ashlyn Watkins is doing in the women's game that I had never seen in person until this year.
So South Carolina took the timeout. They are shooting at a blistering pace in this quarter. 11 of 14 from the field. That's better than 78%. Texas A&M not too shabby at 58%.
Well, and I got to believe that timeout by South Carolina was to address Aisha Coulibaly on offense, because she's been able to get the touches and get downhill. And that time, Ashlyn Watkins was much more aggressive in trying to deny her the ball.
Coulibaly has scored 8 here in the third quarter. And she will head to the free throw line. South Carolina over the limits. So 2 free throws for Coulibaly, a 73% free throw shooter. The foul on Watkins, her second personal.
Dawn is arguing who that last foul was on.
I thought it was Fagan, and they posted Watkins, so Dawn Staley, most certainly with the help with their assistant coaches, just making sure who the foul was called on. I don't think they're going to change anything, so it's on Watkins. Tipped by Bowles, out of play.
And Eric, the full court pressure by A&M is not something they do a lot, so I like the change of pace here, trying to just force a turnover by South Carolina.
KK Green defending Johnson in the backcourt. Here comes Bowles to help, and that's going to be a 10-second call. If you were expecting South Carolina to come out of the locker room and run away from Texas A&M, the Aggies have other ideas. Carolina's outscored A&M by 1 point here in this third quarter, and it's Texas A&M basketball.
I go back to what Joni Taylor told us. She said most teams are beat before they step on the floor. I needed to make sure my team believed they could play with South Carolina. And right now, Aisha Coulibaly can definitely play with South Carolina.
Coulibaly will head back to the free throw line. She is 8 for 8 from the line today. Johnson picked up her first personal. With each minute that goes by in this game, and we're in the final minute of the third quarter, Coulibaly's doing her best. You're buying time for Barker to stay on the bench instead of running the risk of putting her out there with the 4 personal fouls.
Absolutely. I mean, we talked about it. Should Joni Taylor put her back in when South Carolina made the run? She believed in her team. Aisha Coulibaly's taken over, scoring the last 11 points for A&M and getting them to the fourth quarter still in this game.
Offensive rebound. There's Coulibaly for 2 more. She has scored the last 13 Aggie points. Her success has fueled A&M's defensive intensity. Watkins takes it on Johnson. Offensive foul on Ashlyn Watkins. That will be her third.
MJ Johnson's another player for the Aggies that did not play in January. There, moves her feet, draws the foul, and you see the emotion by the Aggies. And then ISO for Coulibaly, the previous play, uses the step through to get around the defender.
Watkins heads to the bench. Shot clock off. Rogers back on the floor, hounded by Fulwiley. Rogers kicks it back, open 3, Bowles, no. Time for a final shot here. Hilton heaves it up, and that's it for the quarter, but it turns out to be a good quarter for Texas A&M. They outscore South Carolina 26-24. Aisha Coulibaly has been a star for Texas A&M. Joni Taylor's team holding their own against Dawn Staley's undefeated Gamecocks. A big quarter for Ashlyn Watkins. A huge quarter for Aisha Coulibaly. We're heading to the fourth.
Welcome back, where Aisha Coulibaly came in today averaging 13 points a game. She had 13 points in the third quarter. She was explosive off the bounce. She used change of speed. She used her explosiveness. She used her body well. It was a plethora of ways that she scored. She got downhill, but she used the step through. She used her physicality. She was really good for the Aggies in the third.
Sure was. 13 third quarter points, 20 for the game. That matches her season high. She went for 20 against Vanderbilt in conference play. It's her second 20-point game as a member of Texas A&M. Her career high came with Auburn when she went for 31. She scored the final 13 of A&M's 26 third quarter points.
So I gotta believe South Carolina right now in their huddle are talking about how to deny a touch for Aisha Coulibaly here in the fourth quarter.
Pau, Cardoso, Johnson, Kitts, and Hall will be the 5 on the floor for South Carolina as the #1 team in the country. Undefeated at 29-0, gets ready for the fourth quarter. South Carolina hit their last 8 shots of the third quarter. They were all scored in the paint, but Texas A&M refuses to quit. They look to the paint again with Cardoso. On the cut, Johnson, and one. Tessa Johnson showing some strength, getting the basket and the foul.
34 paint points now for South Carolina, and they're doing it by moving without the basketball. Great pass by Camila Cardozo to Tessa Johnson, and she finished.
And she finishes the three-point play. 12 points for the freshman in her postseason debut. South Carolina back up by 12. And a sloppy, unforced error for Texas A&M. They turn it over for a 12th time. Pow defended by Hilton. Johnson. Cardoso. Bree Hall. She lost the handle into the hands of Hilton. And that one's tipped away by Johnson. It will be Texas A&M basketball.
Thought Texas A&M got really lucky with that pass by Hilton, and I think Joni Taylor's taking her out right now.
KK Green, the starting point, will come in for Hilton.
I think these next 2 minutes for Texas A&M are really important. It's one thing to play with South Carolina, be proud of that. It's another thing to truly believe you can beat them, and this is where right now execution is at a premium.
Fulwiley had to go up and get that pass. Made the pass to where? Who finished? Great catch by Fulwiley. That looked like it had a turnover written all over it. Instead, it's 2 to make it a 10-point game. Cardoso fouled by Ware. That's her third.
Fulwiley said it worked in the third. Let's just go to it in the fourth. Amazing hops to get up, and then gives the assist this time to Ware for 2.
First miss for Cardoso and the team, now 11 of 12. When do you bring Janiah Barker back into the game if you're Joni Taylor?
I think as long as you're within 10 and you can get to about 6 or 7 minutes, you keep her on the bench. Because right now we know where the ball's going through. Aisha Coulibaly's going to get a touch. Doesn't mean she's going to shoot it, as we saw in the last play. But your offense is stabilized right now. Your defense is hanging in there. The key right now is they can't keep going blow for blow. They've got to get a score and a stop and cut into this lead.
So keep it around 10 points for the next couple of minutes on the game clock is best case scenario for Texas A&M.
Absolutely, but you want to get it under 10 before the 5 if at all possible.
Rogers can't hit, knocked away, but picked up by Kitts. Off to Pow. They've kept Pow in check here today. She's attempted just 2 3-pointers. She has 3 points. Kitts into trouble, and a tie-up jump ball will give it to Texas A&M. I think Coulibaly may be bleeding, and that's why she's signaling to the bench.
Well, again, team defense. Coulibaly gets in the arm on the hand on the ball as Chloe Kitts is going up. That's why the jump ball was called.
Coulibaly out in front of the scorers table. They're just going to bring her out of the game for the moment to be 10-2, and MJ Johnson, Sahara Jones will come into the game.
And look who's coming to the scores table now.
Let's see, top of your screen, Barker taking a seat in front of the official score. Inside of 8 minutes to go now.
With no Coulibaly on the floor, who's going to get the shot opportunity?
It's Rogers. 5 points for Rogers. A gamble in the backcourt by Green. Here's Pow. Back the other way. Cardoso with the putback. "17 points for Camilla. Bulls. Shot clock down to 7 for Rogers. Rogers trying to get around Cardoso. Kicks into the corner. Bulls It was a hot pass. She fumbled a little bit and just had to speed up to get rid of it before the shot clock expired. So here comes Barker, just 2 seconds, under 7 minutes to go on the clock. When she left the game with 6:15 to go in the third quarter with her 4th personal foul, Texas A&M was down by 8. Look at the scoreboard. They're down by 11. Fulwiley and the Aggies did well to stay right there with South Carolina.
And now Barker has to take advantage of these minutes here in the 4th quarter. Play smart, play disciplined.
Cardoso to Kitts, defended by Barker. She has to be careful. Hall. And a foul is going to be called, I believe, on Ware for Texas A&M, although Jones was there as well. I think it's Ware, and if it is, it'll be her 4th. No, it's Jones. Should have gone with my first instinct, Christy.
Oh, I mean, Jones definitely got her as Hall was getting downhill, and I like the aggressive play there by Hall. Originally, Chloe Kitts was going at Barker. Barker held her ground. Hall got downhill to draw the foul.
So it's 1 on Jones. Ware at 3 fouls and holding, and Hall misses at the free throw line. Fulwiley has been patched up, so she is sitting with the assistant coaches at Texas A&M, ready to come back into the game. Both free throws missed, but Kitts with the rebound for South Carolina, and an open 3 for Hall. Cardoso an offensive rebound. Pow, pow for 3. One of those South Carolina newcomers, an impactful transfer into this program. She announced on social media that she's coming back next year for South Carolina. She has been outstanding for Carolina this year. Here's Barker, too strong. Has to pull back as Hall got to that rebound. Pow Pow looks for another one. And Barker gets pulled down awkwardly. It'll be Texas A&M basketball, but let's make sure Janiah Barker's okay, because that was an awkward fall.
Eric, 13 offensive rebounds on the game, and this was probably the biggest one. The kick out to Pow Pow.
Barker's okay. She was down on the court for just a moment, so she'll stay out there. And Fulwiley is back on for Texas A&M. "14 points is the biggest lead of the game for South Carolina. Barker can't get the 2. Fulwiley wasting no time making an impact, but she can't finish. And a foul's going to be called on MJ Johnson. And I think Johnson got teed up. She was overly demonstrative after having that foul called. It's been an intense game in here. We've seen it on both sides. The players, the coaches getting fired up. You've heard it in the arena from the fans fueling the fire. Johnson gets a technical here.
Johnson was upset with this call. She did come across the arm, but for some of the physical play, I think this is probably what she's doing, and very reactionary to that call.
Now, it's not every day you see your 6'7" post being called upon to go to the free throw line, but when you're Camila Cardoso and you're 5 for 6 from the line today, you get the call for the tee. That's rewarding the post. So for Johnson, it's a double. It's a foul, and that technical counts as a personal foul, so it's 2 fouls on her. And well, South Carolina's already in the bonus with 5.5 to go in the 4th.
Eric, Cardoso was shooting the 2 free throws from her foul.
Okay. Well, I wanted
now
to have
the best free throw
right.
shooter on the team, sorry, is shooting the 2 free throws.
I just looked at, I saw bonus, so I got you. It's a little early for the bonus with 5.5 to go, but that's what makes you a great teammate. You corrected it. I still would have put Camila at the free throw line for the tees.
I think Camila was auditioning for the next time with those 2.
And she made them both. Leave her there. She can make 4 in a row.
I mean, are you questioning Dawn Staley? Because she did say that you had a face for radio yesterday.
She did say that. She She said it in jest, I think.
Did she? Or
I
did
hope.
you hear it?
So they're still sorting things out here at the table. This may have been part of my confusion, so now I feel a little bit better. Christie's giving an explanation from Gina Cross. When the explanation is that long, that makes me feel better that my confusion was warranted.
So she said the 5th foul was committed. It should have been the technical free throws first.
Yes.
So they're going to wipe those free throws that Camila Cardozo shot off. That's what she said. And then they will get the ball.
So Camilla's 2 free throws don't count. That's the tees for Pow Pow. And there's another explanation going on here at her announce table. You can see how nice Christie's suit is, how focused she is while I'm complimenting her suit. Did you hear me? I got you.
All right, big brother. So the technical foul made it the 5th foul. So Cardozo, the foul committed on Cardozo was the 4th. So it should have been 2 free throws. It's a correctable error. So they wiped the free throws away. The technical foul was what Pow Pow shot, the 2 technicals, and now they got ball back.
You see why my confusion. If I see Cardozo by herself at the free throw line, she's shooting tees. And I think that should be what happens next because they took 2 free throws away from her, so.
We got it. You want Cardozo to shoot technical free throws.
Have I made my point clear? Here's Johnson. It's a free throw contest right now. Now, Dawn Staley is getting the explanation that I believe you got. That won't drop. Then it's a rebound for Barker. So after sorting through all that, it is a 17-point lead for South Carolina. And critical trips here for Texas A&M into the hands of Fulwiley, who will go to the free throw line.
And I like the play call. Get it to the best player today on your team, Aisha Fulwiley. Get her downhill where she's had success and do it quickly. This is where A&M right now, I expect after the free throws, extend it back into some of that full court pressure. They've got to speed South Carolina up and to cut into this lead.
Lauren Ware will come into the game for MJ Johnson. Fulwiley's been outstanding from the free throw line.
And here's the
new season high for her. Christy, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, here's the full court player-to-player defense. And Chloe Kiss just brings it up easily.
Fulwiley now 10 of 12 from the line after going 1 for 2. Pow Pow back out to Kitts. Kitts turns down the 3. We'll try the deep 2 instead. Lauren Ware with the rebound.
Kiki Green needs to try to push pace here. She's walking it up.
Inside of 5 minutes to play. Fulwiley comes up short. Barker kept it alive. Fulwiley to Rogers. That would have been big, but Fulwiley's not done yet. And stepping out of bounds is Rogers. South Carolina basketball. That will get us to a media timeout. This is quarterfinal number 1 of 4 here on a big day here in Greenville. Champ Week heating up, and it's South Carolina on top in the 4th. Had a little bit of everything in this game. We've had perhaps a goaltending call to look at. We've had a dunking chihuahua. Now we've got Tennessee in the back of Bon Secours Wellness Arena, stretching out, getting ready to go. See Rikia Jackson, center of the screen. She'll take center stage for Tennessee against Alabama. Alabama took the number 4 seed on the final day of the regular season with a win combined with a Tennessee loss to South Carolina for their highest seeding in years. You got to go back to 1998 since Alabama was a 4 seed.
And let's not forget, Alabama got that 4 seed because they beat Tennessee earlier this month in Tuscaloosa. Defense was the key for Alabama in that game. I'm really eager to see the adjustments Tennessee has today as they take on the Crimson Tide.
You will see the rematch coming up next, about 30 minutes after the conclusion of this game. Of course, Alyssa, Steffi, Nikki will be joined by the winners after this game here to keep you company between games. Part of a busy day here in Greenville. Here's Fulwiley with the basketball. Chloe Kitts leans in, count it and one. Chloe Kitts with a chance for a three-point play for South Carolina.
Eric, we were praising Chloe Kitts during the break, and on cue, offensive rebound, the big one for Chloe Kitts to get South Carolina another 2 points on the afternoon.
And the foul was on Janiah Barker. She's done. She fouls out with 4:17 to go in the fourth. She picked up that fourth foul with 6:15 to go in the third quarter. So really a non-factor in the second half. She finishes the game with 11 points. Point game. Here's Rogers. Rogers, tough shot for two.
Can A&M get a stop? Can they even better get a turnover?
Well, Wiley has it knocked away. Kitts, great adjustment. Couldn't finish, but not finished on the glass. And it'll be South Carolina basketball.
Chloe Kitts just stays active on the offensive end for the Gamecocks right now, extending this possession.
Rogers will come out. Hilton will come on. Well, Wiley defended by Bowles. Watkins rolls to the basket, trying to make the extra pass. It was at the feet of Kitts. And back the other way comes Hilton. Hilton to the basket. Good finish by Te-Hina. Hilton for her first points.
So there was a stop and a score. Can they do it again? And I got to believe South Carolina's going to start working some clock.
That clock now reads 3:20 and counting. Watkins hangs in the air and puts down two more. 10 points for Watkins, all in the second half.
Taking way too long for A&M to get into their half-court offensive sets right now.
Coulibaly rips through, throws it up, count it, and the foul. Aisha Coulibaly now with 23 points and a chance to add to it. Looking up at the video board in the arena to admire her hard work. Chloe Kitts picks up the personal. That's her third. Fagan back on for South Carolina. Fantastic performance by Aisha Coulibaly. 24 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. And here is a turnover. Bowles inside. A&M needed that one, couldn't get it, and then a foul is called on Texas A&M. Coulibaly picks up her first personal.
A&M did what they needed to do there. They forced the turnover, just could not finish. And it takes me back to the first quarter when the first half when they forced the 15 turnovers, but they could not consistently capitalize to cut into the lead.
Well, Wiley to the free throw line to shoot a couple. 77% free throw shooter.
Did you notice the change of shoes at halftime for Malaysia?
Oh my gosh. That's why I work with you, because you are my wardrobe / shoe change expert.
She was frustrated in the first half. I'm sure that had something to do with it. Let me get my new kicks on.
Coulibaly fouled by Watkins, and back to the free throw line goes Aisha Coulibaly for her 14th and 15th attempts of the game.
I do appreciate that Aisha's taking her time. Last 2 trips to the free throw line because she is fatigued right now. She has played so hard and so well here this afternoon.
She's also having equipment issues with her knee brace. That may be part of the reason she's buying time. Ready to go now for a couple of free throws. Coulibaly getting closer to her career high of 31. She's blown past her season high of 20, now at 26. Here's the pressure from A&M. Here comes Fulwiley with the handle. Fulwiley into the front court. Fulwiley with the finish. Bowles corner 3 on the way. No good. Batted out by Hilton. Green defended by Johnson. Shot clock at 5. Coulibaly has to launch. She cannot miss right now. 29 for Coulibaly. 12-point South Carolina lead. Inside of 2 minutes to go in the 4th. Fulwiley has an opening. Fulwiley can't finish, and Ware's got the rebound. So Texas A&M gets the stop. They've got to move.
Got numbers.
Hilton kicks it over to Bowles for a long 2. Green, Bowles, this is a 3. Rebound for South Carolina. Raven Johnson says, let's settle down.
And I thought Hilton had a layup when she kicked it out to Bowles in the corner on the initial pass.
Johnson, no need to take it to the basket. Work some clock. 1:10 to go into the hands of Fagan. Tried to get it to Johnson. Johnson caught it and finished. Final minute, and Texas A&M, no urgency here. They know with the time and score that this one is in the books for South Carolina.
But Joni Taylor had India Rogers at the table, was going to get her in, and then just pulled her back and told her to have a seat. And there you go.
Coulibaly with 32. It is a new career high. Remember, she scored the final 13 points of the 3rd quarter. She has scored the last 11 points of the 4th quarter for Texas A&M. At the very least, you look at the score and what Texas A&M did today. They were not blown out by South Carolina. This has to look good in the eyes of the selection committee on Selection Sunday in the NCAA. They got a win against Mississippi State. They held their own against South Carolina. In the end, it's going to be a win for undefeated and #1 South Carolina. But A&M in the last 4 in group, according to Charlie Cream, a net of 43. This can only help their cause come next Sunday.
Absolutely, and we saw an India Rogers that looked really good yesterday. Looked a little fatigued today because, again, she hasn't practiced. So to go back-to-back games is a lot for any player, much less when you haven't had a lot of reps in recent weeks.
In the end, it will be another win for South Carolina. Another 30-win season. Carolina wins it 79-68. They are moving on to the semifinals in Greenville.
a lot of different ways that the Gamecocks can beat you, and when it got tight, you saw the explosiveness of Malaysia Fulwiley. You saw Chloe Kitts on the glass. You saw Watkins' explosiveness. A lot of talent for the Gamecocks, but hats off to the Aggies today. They battled for 40 minutes, and Aisha Coulibaly was spectacular with 32 points.
Cardozo leads the way with 17. Barker in foul trouble, limited to 11, and Aisha Coulibaly taking the handshakes from South Carolina. And you know there's a respect given there because Coulibaly went for a career high 32 points. She was 8 of 16 from the field, made 3 3-pointers, 13 of 15 from the free throw line. South Carolina 30-0 on the season. They win at 79-68. The final, they advance on to the semifinals tomorrow, 4:30 Eastern time, against the winner of our next game between Alabama and Tennessee. That's coming up next here on the SEC Network. It'll be right around the bottom of the hour. Good win for South Carolina against the Game A&M team. And here's Brooke with Te-Hina Pow Pow.
All right, Te-Hina, it took some time for you guys to get settled in here. What changed the game in the third quarter?
Halftime speech. She just came in there. We just got to take care of the ball and be who we are. It's self-inflicted, and we just got to come back to who we are, and that's what happened, and we blew the game wide open.
Texas A&M was giving you guys some pretty good defensive pressure. What did that feel like from your perspective?
It was good pressure. They're a good defensive team, but we just got to take care of the ball, let the offense flow, and get into the post and make the reads from there.
You know, you've been on this team and have that calm leadership effect. What's kind of going to be your message to the team heading into the locker room?
You know, one game down, we got another one tomorrow. We got to rest up, take care of the body, and come back locked in and be who we are and get the dub.
All right, thanks, Te-Hina.
Thank you. Thank you.